Hey guys, I guess we could go ahead and get started even though the Renegade's pretty fun. So today we are going to be talking about how we can use those test taking strategies and the little whip strategy to make sure that we can read a passage closely and use the strategies that will help us understand the text. So if we look at Slide 13, we have our anchor chart again, which is our whip, and I just want to go over that real quick with you guys. So the W, we have to write down what we think the answer is, have evidence to support our answer. So that's that quoting accurately from the text, going back in the text and finding something that supports what we think our answer is. Then we have to investigate the answer options. We have to figure out which one is the best one, because they probably try to trick us, and then put the answer that best matches our original prediction. So we might be a little bit off, but we want to stick with our gut, okay? And then some of the other ones that are really important right here, 1 through 4, make sure that we go back to the text to find our answer. You can never be too sure about it. You want to make sure that it's right. And we want to highlight important information or underline whatever works best for you. And then annotate in the margins. Remember, that means writing in the margins, writing beside it if we need to, or we should do that, not if we need to. We all need to do it. And then 4, skim the questions first so that we know what we're looking for, because if we read the questions first, then we'll know exactly what we're looking for. So when we read, we're like, oh, I know there's a question about that, so I can really make sure I remember what this part is and I can reference that and have my evidence when it's time for me to investigate my answer options. So we are going to do that. I'm going to practice that for you. So we have a passage, and it's called the argument. But if I remember what I just said, I should probably read the questions first. So I'm going to go to the questions, and I'm going to read over these questions first so I know what I'm looking for when I read the text. So number 1 says, what were Maria and Felicia fighting about? Okay, so I know I need to remember whatever the argument, the fight was about. 2, why was Maria leaving the house? Okay, so apparently Maria leaves the house in the story. 3, in what room of the house does the story take place? Okay, so this is a setting question, I know that, so I need to be thinking about the setting of the story. And then 4, how did Mom place the chairs? Okay, so when I read these questions, I'm not really reading the answer choices right now because I don't even know what the story's about. I just want to read the question so I can know what I'm looking for. Later, I'll investigate, which is the I in whip, what answer is the best. Number 5, sitting there, what part of the girls was almost touching? And then 6, at the end of the story, both girls were. Alright, so I've read all my questions and I know what I'm looking for. So I'm familiar with that. So now I'm going to go ahead and go to my passage. And I've already read it once, so I'm going to read it twice. Remember, you always want to read your passages twice so you really make sure you understand them and know what it's saying. So the argument. Mom could hear the girls squabbling all the way in the kitchen. It was the 3rd time this week that the sisters had been arguing over something or fighting about nothing. A few minutes later, Maria stormed through the kitchen and slammed the door as she left. Come back here, young lady, Mom firmly stated in her best mother tone of voice. Maria turned around and came back to the kitchen. I can't stand living with Felicia another minute, Maria blurted out. I don't ever want to talk to her again. I remember that was one of those questions, so if I could highlight, I would highlight this, because she's trying to get away from Felicia, it seems like. Mom immediately called out, Felicia, come to the kitchen right now. While Felicia was on her way, Mom took two of the kitchen chairs and placed them opposite each other, but very close together. Maria, you sit here, and Felicia, you sit here. The girls sat facing each other, knees almost touching. Now, you look each other in the eye for 5 minutes, Mom ordered while she stood there as a referee. The sisters squirmed at first, but Mom was adamant that they stay staring icily at each other for 5 minutes, saying something about each minute they didn't make eye contact meant another minute sitting in the chairs. They both wanted out, so all they could do was sit there and look at each other. Felicia looked at Maria's pouting face, while Maria looked at Felicia's angry scowl. They each thought the other one looked ridiculous. In reality, they were being ridiculous to fight and be mad at each other over nothing. Oh, I need to highlight that if I could, or underline that, so I would highlight that, because I know what they're fighting about now. Nothing. Soon Maria couldn't stand it any longer and began giggling, and so did Felicia. They giggled and laughed. That seems important. I would underline that. Mom wisely didn't say anything except, "Okay, girls, you can go now." So now that I've read this twice, I can go back and try to investigate, because I've already kind of figured out what I think some of the answers might be, but now I want to investigate my answer options. So number 1, what were Maria and Felicia fighting about? Makeup, homework, or nothing? Well, using my strategies, I've already underlined or highlighted something, so I'm going to go back, and it says right down here, in reality, they were being ridiculous to fight and be mad at each other over nothing. So, I have evidence right there to support my answer of that it would be C. They were fighting about nothing. 2, why was Maria leaving the house? A, because she didn't want to be near Felicia. Well, that's pretty close, but I want to keep reading. Investigate my other options. B, it was time to go to school. Or C, she was visiting a friend. If I go back to the text right up here at the beginning, it says, a few minutes later, Maria stormed through the kitchen and slammed the door as she left. "Come back here, young lady," Mom firmly stated in her best mother tone of voice. She turned around, came back to the kitchen. "I can't stand living with Felicia another minute. I don't ever want to talk to her again." So it doesn't say anything about school or anything about going to another friend's house. So the best answer here would be because she didn't want to see Felicia, because we can obviously tell that she's not very happy with her right now. 3, in what room of the house does the story take place? Well, if we go back over here, it says that Felicia, come to the kitchen right now. While she was on her way, Mom took 2 of the kitchen chairs and placed them opposite of each other. So she said, "Come to the kitchen," says it right here, and she used 2 kitchen chairs for the girls to sit in. So we know it's not the bedroom. The kitchen, probably so. The dining room. Well, some people could argue maybe the dining room, but it explicitly says kitchen, so kitchen would be our best answer for number 3. Alright, 4. How did Mom place the chairs? A, side by side, B, back to back, or C, facing each other? Well, I'm going to go back to the text. I think it was facing each other, but I want to be sure. It says, "Maria, you sit here, and Felicia, you sit here." The girls sat facing each other. It tells us right there in the text. We don't have to infer, we don't have to predict anything about that answer. It is right there in the text. So we know it is C, facing each other. D, sitting there, what part of the girls was almost touching? A, hands, B, knees, or C, feet? Of course, I'm going to go back to the text. I think it was knees, but I want to be sure. So it says, they were sitting in the chairs. Place them opposite, right here. The girls sat facing each other, knees almost touching. So, I found my evidence, I've investigated my answer options, and I know it's the knees. And then 6, at the end of the story, both girls were giggling, crying, or mad. Well, let's see. Right down here it says, soon Maria couldn't stand it any longer and began giggling, and so did Felicia. They giggled and laughed. So they're happy, they're laughing. Giggling means laughing, so they're not crying and they're not mad. So it's definitely A. So, if I could have, I would have written in the margins and highlighted where those points that I said was super important. So that's what I want you guys to do as you work on your activity on slide 14 right here. Make sure you're using those strategies, because I promise you it will help you ace it, okay? Oh, there's Brooks in the background. I guess he's kind of mad I'm not showing him any attention. But that's it. Alright guys, I'll see you later.